The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on the webinar today. I hope you can all hear us, as most people have probably experiencing. Internet speeds and whatnot across the UK certainly haven't been great today. So if at any point it does jump off, just let me know. A bit of housekeeping to begin with. You should be able to see within the doc that you're using for the platform, for the GoToWebinar platform, there's an option for question polls. You should be able to raise your hand and things as well. So if at any point you can't hear or anything, there's any issues, just let us know. The same as well with any questions that you may have. Certainly, just let us know and we can answer them towards the end as well. Um, in addition to that, this webinar will be recorded and it will be provided to you as well afterwards, so you can revisit and also provide it again to any of your colleagues and things like that. So we were inspired to do this webinar based off the work that we've been doing with schools across Europe and in Asia over the last sort of weeks. And we've been running similar webinars for our customers over the last few weeks. And now we want to take the opportunity, really, based on the influx of questions that we've had, to sort of help point people in the right direction and maybe give you a bit of information that you haven't had previously. So the way that the webinar will run is that first off, we'll go through some of the hints and tips that we've had from other people. We can then walk through what we've been doing with schools in the platform. And then finally, we'll do a Q&A with any questions that you may have. So as I say, we've kind of put together an outline of some of the areas that we feel it's based on what we've done elsewhere. It's very important to address. And these are split into three kind of main buckets. So the first one being the technology and the access that's available to your students and your learners, as well as your staff. Secondly, the curriculum and the instruction that you're going to provide to them. And then lastly, and almost most importantly, is the expectations and the communication that you're going to wrap around that. And that covers both students, teachers, and also parents. So a few of the things that have kind of been pointed out to us by a number of colleges and organisations are, firstly, making sure that teachers are on hand to help students whilst they're doing the work. So this is something that we'll cover in terms of how you can help make sure that there's that line of communication between teachers and students whilst they're working from home. Forsyth Schools is an organization in the US that have been using the platform for a long while for things such as snow days, for remote learning and things like that. And one of the things that they've come up with is you need to identify and address students who don't have connectivity at their home. Now, this is something that's particularly prominent in the US, but getting a grip of that technology in the UK and what devices and things are available is equally important. We'll come onto that later. Um, Finally, as well, another one from one of our organizations in the US has stated that one thing that's important is if you are running a new platform, it's to make sure that there's still some familiarity in terms of the content that you're using. So if you have previously used a lot of PowerPoint, you can continue using PowerPoint. If you do use things like ClickView and Purple Mash within the school, then continue using ClickView and Purple Mash, but try not to add too many new different types of online content all at once. And finally, Language One is one that we've done a lot of work with. They have schools across Asia and Singapore and Hong Kong. And one of the things that they've noted is that it's important, as Forsyth mentioned, to make sure that there's connectivity, but also the types of devices that are available. So it's important to do that kind of technology run through with your students to make sure you know what is possible for your learners. So looking at the technology access, as I mentioned, first and foremost, it's what access do students have to a device and also to connectivity when they're away from school. It's very easy to kind of presume that there will be a device in every school. We've got a lot of schools that actually have sent through surveys, and we've got example surveys as part of our remote learning pack online that we can provide to you after the webinar. And it's important to know that if they don't have a device or they do have a device, also how much access do they have? If there's multiple children that are working out of the same home, are they going to share that device between them, or do they have constant access to the device? And that'll help you then dictate how your lessons are going to look and how the learning's going to look. Next one is that technology itself. So you got to make sure that there's login details and user access and that everyone's set up with that. Again, within our home working pack, we've got a template that you can use that gives your students all of their logins so that they've got them and access to them, but also on a teacher point of view as well as who's going to be on hand to help troubleshoot any issues that they have. Now, within the itslearning platform, we obviously make it so that people can self-serve themselves if they forget their password and things like that, or we can set up single sign-on, but there's still going to be some element of whatever systems and solutions you're using to have someone on hand who's going to be able to help troubleshoot even if they're remote from the school. Secondly, the curriculum and the instruction. So it's important to understand exactly how you're going to deliver this content. So first and foremost, are you just going to run it synchronously with all the users doing the same sort of usual lessons at the same time, starting and finishing at the same time? Or is everyone going to work through things individually? Now, we tend to find for the most part that keeping your classes together and having them working together is the best way to do it. And as you can see in the final bullet point there, one of the reasons for that is it will foster that cooperation and collaboration. And during periods of isolation and being away from the school and away from their friends and things like that, having those collaborative work and running sessions and keeping that routine is really, really important when it comes to sort of maintaining mental health and morale within the students as well. The question, if you're going to do that, is how you actually set out that timetable. So are you going to just keep to the usual timetable? As I know, timetable is very much a work of art. So changing the timetable at the last moment may be difficult. So it's looking at how you're going to do that. Are you going to allow more time? We do find that students are going to take about twice as long to complete work when it's done remotely compared to when it's done in a lesson. So that's something that instructors and teachers need to bear in mind. One of the most important things really is keeping it simple. Don't overload them with resources. Keep it identified of what they need to be doing at what time and what teacher is going to be available for them during that period. And finally, the content itself. So you want to make sure, as we've mentioned, it's engaging as possible. So is that going to be a combination of video, interactive Word documents, collaborative documents, sound, games, things like that, and using that content that's available to you and providing that to the learners. Finally, it's the communication. This is possibly the most important piece. There's got to be expectations that are made clear to your teaching staff as to what they're required to do, when they're required to be available for their students, and likewise make sure the students and parents know when teachers are going to be available. Make it Making that information available to parents, it's important to understand how you're going to do that, making sure that you've got those contact details for the parents or that they're aware of your main line of communication, whether that be via the website, via a learning platform, or another method. Creating that communication as well, it's important to have some level of kind of community where everyone can get involved. Now, the most important thing about this is also then the safeguarding things. We tend to see a lot of schools that may be rushing in and using something like WhatsApp. Whatever you're doing, you've got to make sure that those messages are being monitored, that it's safeguarded, and that someone's able to oversee what's going on there. So it's easier to have minimum channels of communication so that people know exactly where they're going for the latest updates, and also from your side so that you know the most important updates are going out from a single place. With that in mind, it's also important to make sure that any messages are trackable and, as I say, monitored. Again, when it comes to the learning itself and safeguarding, whether that communication is face-to-face or if you can enable video and things like that, that's something to bear in mind. So what we'll do, I'll jump into the platform itself and we'll go through exactly how we do that within itslearning, and you can get a bit of a feel for the setup that a lot of our schools have been using. When a teacher logs into the platform, the way that we tend to do it is that they'll be segregated into the time slots that they have. They'll be able to see all their periods, and both them and the student will know when they're available. All the teacher needs to do is very quickly and very simply click and add a resource. And that resource will then be made available for that student. So when that student begins that lesson, they can then just work through those resources. Now, a resource can be all manner of things. So we've got a whole host of options within here. You can create a page which has different content, it has videos, links, things like that. You can just have a single link to a YouTube video or a resource online or something like that. Or you can create a test, registration, things like that. And again, also the platform comes with Zoom built in so that you can provide Zoom as well. So you can add Zoom as a resource within a lesson, and the teacher can then talk face to face with their class. So for the purpose of this, we'll add an assignment and we'll walk through exactly how that works. So creating an assignment, give that a title, and a description. So it's really important when you're creating this work to give a clear description. What we tend to find a lot of teachers may do is their first resource would be a video or something like that. So they may record a video and they'll go through exactly what it is that they want the student to do, what they want them to complete, and then they simply add the file here. So itslearn ties in with Office 365 or Google or whatever it is that you use. So you don't need to create any additional resources. All of your resources that you already have and already use, simply add them on here, make a copy for each student, and create that assignment. Now, there's a couple of options on the right-hand side, depending on what you want to do. If there's particular assessment scales that you want, for example, if you want it to be group work as well, you can select this on the right-hand side as well. So the beauty of creating a group this way is you select a group, students can then create a group, they can work on that document collaboratively through Office 365 or through Google Docs, and then simply at the end, they click complete. So I'll create this assignment, I've added it there, and then that's available for that student. And again, you can add all manner of things within here, and most importantly, the student knows that you're available at that period to help them out. So if I was to log in as a student, again, similar sort of look, but you can see in the top right hand corner here that I'm logged in now as Sam, the student, and I know at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, I'm going to start working through my English. I can click here and I can see that worksheet's in there, and I can click and I can start working through it. So this is something that's in here. Again, if it's group work, multiple people will be on it. Click on and then just click submit when you're done. Now, as soon as that's been submitted, teacher will get a notification and they can grade it. Now, the main kind of benefits of this over using sort of the paper options and things like that is that one, there's not the upfront amount of work to do. It's just a case of as the lessons come around, adding the resources and letting the students work through it. But also it's the ability to tweak and tailor what you're doing as the student progresses. So it's very, very simple to then start marking the work. If I go on the home page, as a teacher, I can see all my courses and all my lessons. I can click in here and I'll be notified exactly when a student has submitted any work. That'll just pop up here as a follow-up task, or I'll be notified up here. There's also the ability to push announcements to my class. And again, as a student, I'm able to see the announcements from the home page as well. So I'll get updated with any announcements from here. There's also the messaging functionality that I can see, and I can quickly reply to my teacher, add anything that I want to, and send it across. And again, when we're talking about making sure things are secure and monitored, we make sure that no messages within here can be deleted. so that there's always a paper trail of exactly what's been sent between teachers and students. And again, if you want to enable between student to student, you can do that as well with the same parameters. So jumping back on as a teacher, I can see now all the work that my students done. I can see how often they were online. I can see the progress that they've made against these activities, what they've done, what they've not done, when it was completed, and again, any grades and things like that as well. And I can simply message the student from here if there's any issues or if they've not been online, which is really useful for keeping an eye on how your learner's going. You know, if there's any issues, if they've not been logging in, you can identify that quickly and you can help them out. Again, you can also provide resources to individuals dependent on their progress and how they're doing as well. We do provide a whole host of other features and functionality within the platform. We've got a library that's full of resources. We can do things like e-portfolios. We've got lesson plans so that you can plan each individual lesson and things like that. But certainly when it comes to getting set up and providing your learners with the resources that they need, we find this is the most simplest way to do it, and it's the way that gets the most out of the platform to be able to get up and running as quick as possible. There's also, obviously, from a system administrator point of view, the ability to send mass messages that go across to everybody. And there's also a view for parents so that they can see what's going on as well. So I'll jump on. Appreciate you guys haven't seen this slideshow yet, but we'll come back to this and we'll provide you with this afterwards so you've all got it. So then, yeah, there's a whole host of different options, different reporting, and a parent view as well, so that a parent can see exactly what a learner's been doing, what work they've got to do, what they've completed, what's outstanding. They can see the calendar of events. And again, depending on how you want to use the platform, there's the possibility to register attendance and any illness and things through there as well. And parents can notify of illness that way as well. Particularly useful if you don't have staff in school, so there's no access to telephone lines and things like that. Then doing it through the platform makes it a very straightforward way of doing it. The platform itself aims to be as simple as possible. So we're getting schools up and running in 48 hours. We're ensuring that contracts, given the current situation, we're not enforcing 12-month contracts or anything like that. If you need it for a month, have it for a month. If you need it for 2 months, have it for 2 months. We can work with you on what you need. And we'll also make sure that video conferencing and things like that are included as well. So, as I said, there's a whole host of resources online on the website, and there's also an email address there for any information that you do need. So what I'll do now is I'll open it up to the floor to ask any kind of questions and anything that I haven't missed. And certainly I'm sure there'll be plenty of things that we can go through as well. So let me see what we've got. Any questions? So how can I view the slides? So I'm guessing that was sent when the slides weren't available. As I've mentioned, we'll send through any slides afterwards as well, so that you've got it. As well as the list of online resources that we've put together as well. So in there's checklists for you to send back with your students to understand what technology's at home, login templates so that everyone's got all the information they need for online learning and things like that as well as a list of resources that are available online from other parties too. Any other questions or anything that we've not mentioned that you're hoping to see? And we've also got one of our pedagogical trainers, Mark, on the call as well. So Mark very much specialised in early learning as well as helping out some of our secondary schools. Mark, is there anything, I know you've done a lot of work with templating pages and things like that. Is there any other advice that you would give to teachers that are working from home?
For me, it's all about continuity. I don't know if you can hear me okay, but I think regular and often on the platform is definitely going to help, because everybody is working little bubbles, everybody is isolated at the moment. So having the ability, first of all, to see what the students are doing, see what the progress is with your content. For instance, it's quite easy to put things up on a website, but then you have no idea who's downloaded it, who has interacted with it, how much time people have spent with things, and being available at different times of the day is going to be crucial. So having a learning platform really helps because there are different ways of communicating. But like Matt says, though, we're here. So if you do want to have a chat or you know, go over things, then we're quite willing to do that with you. And hopefully we've given you some ideas anyway, I think.
So, thank you, Mark. So I can see there are a couple of questions around commercials and things like that. As I say, given the current situation, what we're doing is we're making sure that you can have Zoom within there free of charge, and also that we can give short-term contracts. So what I'll do is anyone that wants pricing, just drop a note in the side. We charge on a per user basis. So drop us a line if you want us to get in touch with pricing, and one of our guys will give you a call tomorrow just to run through how we can get you set up and how we can make sure that it's something that you can afford and get it in as easily as possible. So I hope that's been of use. Obviously, things are changing constantly all the time at the moment, so we may well do future webinars as and when things change to kind of provide you with more information based on, again, what our customers are finding and what we're doing. But if there are any questions at all, just drop us a line and we'll send through all the webinar and all the information following this. So as long as there aren't any other questions, I'll thank you all very much for your time. And yeah, we'll send this through in due course. So thank you very much, guys, and enjoy your evening.